It when the internet goes out right before you're about to go live. Everybody does, right? That's like every streamer's favorite thing ever. We are doing a challenge only episode. You know what time it is, baby. It's time to get this social media popping real quick. See if we can get some people in the chat live. We had a strong 3 going on last time I did the show, so that was pretty clutch. Not even gonna lie. I gotta mute myself here because it's about to come in too loud, I think. Hold on. Oh, it doesn't even show me online yet, which is disturbing. Okay, I'm here. God damn it. Yeah, man, hotkeys is like real sticky. I don't know a better way to describe it. It does not, hotkeys does not work well. There we go. Hotkeys does not work well. Cool. Audio's there. Audio's clear there. Let's copy this right here. Twitch. Copy and paste there. Let's take a little jaunt over to YouTube real quick. Copy and paste the link there. Dude, my YouTube feed on my sports channel is so interesting. Because I've spent years on my other one, so I've like had a bunch of. There's been a bunch of channels that I've probably blocked or just been like not interested in consistently. Like all the Barstool stuff still pops up in my feed on my Broke Boy Sports YouTube account, and I kind of shut all that down like a couple years back when Portnoy got caught saying the N-word like 7 times on a podcast, and everybody tried to act like they were cool with it. And then he refused to apologize about it too, so that was that. Drop your predictions. Hopefully we don't have somebody hop in the YouTube comments and spell out nigga again. That was fun. Wow, bro. Like, hotkeys, chill out, bro. I need to fix something. There has to be a way for me to lock things in place so that every time I click on a hotkey, it doesn't activate. Even though I'm not even clicking the numbers, which is the dumb part. So, whatever. I got a lot of people banking on some kind of governmental change to happen in Texas, and that is interesting to me. Especially since we know the people around us. Like, I live in this state, and, having faith in people to use logic sometimes is asking a lot. But then again, some people actually do vote for things that benefit them, regardless of whether or not it hurts others. So there's that. The challenge. Oh man, that's probably right. Yo, man, I have the nastiest case of tendonitis on my peroneal nerve. Oh my god, dude, Jesus. The challenge. Ride or die, right? That's one. Why is it not coming up? Anyway. Twitch. Twitter is not down. Sorry, guys. We're doing all the fucking social media stuff right now. Road to affiliate, right? Road to affiliate, which we actually are on, which is really weird to think that we're at that place right now, but we are. YouTube, broadcast yourself, fool. I used to say that because the old YouTube slogan, and maybe it still is, but it used to be broadcast yourself because they used to emphasize people trying to create their own content instead of like these big production companies coming on their platform and dropping stuff. But yeah, it'd be like that sometimes, bro. It really do. Anyway, I used to say YouTube, broadcast yourself, fool. Because I used to think it was funny. Obviously, it was nerd shit. There's a lot of things you look back on retroactively in your life, and you're like, nerd. That's most of the things that I've done in my life. And luckily, I'm still cool with some of the people that I used to be cool with in my life earlier in it. And, they give me like honest takes, or not takes, but like their honest perspective on how my life used to be and how I used to act towards them. So, haven't gotten anything too bad yet, but yeah, time will tell. Facebook. Sorry guys, can't forget about the book, People used to try and make that pop off. It was so funny, bro. People used to try and make that pop off so hard. Calling Facebook the book. It's that time of the year where we all find out that our friends are basketball coaches for this upcoming year. So that's fun, I think, for everybody. Let's see. Nope. That's not what we're here for. Alright. That's not what we're here for. Let's get it popping, shall we? Let's get it going, gents. Ladies and gents, people that I appreciate for showing up to the show. Got the podcast already preset for everything to record, and then tweets are out. It's time to start talking about the challenge. Let's do a little talking, guys. Let's have a conversation. Coming to you live in 3, 2. Yo, what is up? I'm not TJ Lavin, but I'll have to do. It's our the challenge only episode for this week, as you guys know. Tomorrow a new episode drops of the challenge season 38. It will be episode 5, which should start heating things up a little bit because it's getting slim pickings around. This is the first episode where there has not been a pair added in after another has been eliminated. So they're actually down to 12 pairs so far. And as you guys know, they try and keep the final down to like even numbers, and it has not been announced what the situation is for the final in terms of whether or not it'll be running pairs or not, because there could be a situation where it's like you run as an individual, but you have opportunities to help your ride or die along the way kind of deal, and you have to choose to do that or choose to help your friends. Also, some people are ride or dies, other people are not necessarily. So it's time to find out who really is ride or dies when it comes to this season, man. So that should be a lot of fun for everyone. Wow, man, I cannot stand hotkeys. Hotkeys is like really effective for me to work on stuff for the show because it allows me to show a bunch of things at one time. By the way, shout out to our newest subscriber on Twitch, our newest follower on Twitch, SMWS Music, somebody who I do know. Apparently a very good Magic the Gathering player, like #1 in the world at a certain deck, which is kind of cool. I don't know much about Magic the Gathering. I grew up as I was a Yu-Gi-Oh kid growing up. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. So, yeah, let's dive into it, man. Let's get it busy. Let's get it popping, shall we? When it comes to the challenge, we're going to use the same format we did. This is pretty much the locked-in format. I do have to work on some of the fonts and stuff like that, in particular for the Final 5 and the top 5 and all that kind of stuff like that. But we are going to stick to the format of the format. So, The Arrival, ladies and gentlemen. So, here's a quick breakdown of where we currently sit in the show. We're on episode 4. 3 rookie pairs, 3 vet pairs, and 5. I'm sorry, there's 5 vet pairs and 5 mixed vet pairs. So there's a vet that brought somebody that's a ride or die, that's a rookie. That's 100% of what those scenarios are. The elimination of Johnny and Raven open the door to the arrival of Darrell and Veronica, who are a vet pair. And as you can see, last week we had the number of rookie pairs being at 4, and now it's switched over to the vet pair. So it's gotten worse for the rookies, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about that in a little bit here. Darrell and Veronica arrive, so let's do a little bit of analysis on like what Darrell and Veronica mean for the show. Veronica is one of the longest tenured vets and one of the longest tenured people to come on the show consistently over time. She actually was a part of the 3rd season ever of Road Rules, and I think she posted on her Instagram about how she was on like a season that aired in 1999, bro. Like straight up. Absolutely insane. Hold on a second here. Yeah, she was on a season that aired in 1999. It was fucking crazy, right? Like, we all think about that and sit back and watch it and think about what Road Rules and how far this show has come in 1999. What a journey. I was 8 years old when that came out. I'm 30 now, so there's that. Yeah, but Veronica's one of the longest tenured vets. Darrell is a legend of the game. He is one of the hottest starts in the history of the challenge. We talked about how Laurel went to the final for 4 straight years. That her first 4 challenge season, she went to the final and she won her final. Or out of those 4, she won the last one. Darrell won 4 consecutive challenges, finals, all the way at the end, won the entire show 4 years in a row. Absolutely insane to think about. And also to add to that, in All Stars, he usually makes it pretty far, and because he at one point it was like he would come on the show and he's like, yeah, he's the only guy who's ever been on the show like and never lost the show that he's been on. But he's lost a couple of shows since then, been eliminated. Had an injury situation in one of them in All Stars 2, but in All Stars season 1 he missed out on winning the final by like a couple of minutes. I think it was like 2 or 3 minutes he missed out on winning the final, and he would have been in first place on All Stars. So came in a strong second, and it's safe to say Darrell's got the juice, as the kids would say about the corn. Competitive outlook for this pair, though, it doesn't look great, because outside of like even Nani is working out this season and Anissa is working out this season too. Have to wait and see what Veronica's situation is, but Veronica's like notorious for not training while she's in the house. And she probably does minimal amount of training, or who knows, man. She might be a Pilates gal, but she doesn't do like intense weightlifting from what we understand about her. She's also like very private about her life on the internet, mainly because she is one of 2 people who have been outed in terms of like their sexuality on the show. So that was fun for everyone. That was absolutely fucking horrible. MTV did not handle that well, because one of them was MTV didn't handle it well in the sense that I think the person who outed Veronica was allowed to come back, like, and compete on later shows. And for some people, it's not that big a deal when you out someone, but for somebody in particular, you talk about like, I wouldn't even say people of color, just people in general, because guess what, like, hate is everywhere. But in particular, you see people of color who have a lot of instances where, like, when they're outed, some of their family members who are highly religious are not like very welcoming of it, kind of deal. So that being said, it was a big concern. It's honestly, in recent years, they've done a better job of wrangling it in, because there have been times where I think somebody has tried or like accidentally or like tried to insultingly call somebody gay on the show. I think it happened with Josh, and I don't remember who said it or anything like that. But there was like rumors that somebody had like tried to out Josh on the show, and I don't know if Josh is actually gay or not, or like bi or anything, but somebody tried to like, it was like a whole big deal that like somebody tried to do something harmful to Josh, and it like almost sent him over the edge. And it's why one of his like iconic rants is like super iconic, because it doesn't have like very much context with it. Anyway, competitive outlook, Veronica doesn't work out. Darrell is one of the best competitors in the history of the show. So you have to imagine they're going to end. Well, honestly, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So they can only go as far as Veronica will allow them to. Maybe Darrell can, and unlike previous seasons, Darrell can convince Veronica to get some training in while she's in the house, because Darrell does have a connection with her. They have been on many seasons together, and they've been partners before in years past. But we'll see what happens. Social outlook: both are arriving late, and you have to wonder, and especially after this season, if the vets even consider them vets, like they're so old, they're such old school players in the game that, like, we're talking about Veronica, who's played like twice as long as Johnny Bananas has, and that's ridiculous, right? Darrell has been out there just as long as Johnny has, and basically won the same. I think he's won the same amount of titles as Johnny off the top of my head. But yeah, it's one of those things where, like, these guys are so old school in the game. They've been around for so long that even the vets are technically significantly younger than them. So you have to wonder how they're going to connect with each other. I do remember in the preseason, or in the early preseason part of on the early preseason part, like, it was an episode that they aired where they only talked to the heavy hitters in a circle, and it had them break down each one of the people who were competing on the show. And Darrell said that he mentioned that he knew Johnny, like, not Johnny Bananas, but Johnny, the one that got eliminated with Raven, and a couple of other people too. So we have to wonder how many other of these younger players that he knows that he might be able to connect with. But only time will tell. I will point out, when they get back to the house, everybody's like excited to see Darrell and stuff like that, and Veronica and everything. They're picking the rooms that they're going to stay in, and Darrell gets offered to stay in a room with Tori, and then reveals on camera that Tori's a sleep farter. So, and then Tori's like, "How many people know that about me?" And I was like, I mean, it's a small house. It's a big house, but it's a small house, so probably everyone. But especially now the whole world knows. And shout out, by the way, hinting to something that happens later on. Apparently, it's not that big a deal to Jordan. Annalise and Tommy deal with a lot of the blowback that happened after they blatantly lied to both of the pairs that were down there in the elimination zone with them. Which, by the way, in a show that is centered around, that literally has a season called Lies, Spies, and Allies, in a show that is centered around you're coming on a show with one person that you trust, for everybody to kind of spaz out and be like, "Oh, you guys lied about what your intentions were when you were on this show," kind of deal. I will like to point out that, you know, maybe they're taking it just a little bit too far. I will point out it is also a very good excuse to pick on one of the weakest, if not the weakest pair that is in the house, because the last 2 weeks has made me flip my opinion from Kim and Colleen to now Tommy and Annalise being the weakest pair in the house, because they legitimately, if last week didn't show you, they actually have no alliance whatsoever, and Kim and Colleen seem to be working their way in, whether it be through like social aspects and everything like that, into an alliance or a pseudo alliance. I will also point out, for as much as people want to talk about Kim and Colleen being in, or like having some kind of connection to the vets and everything like that, they have not had a single fucking problem saying their name the last 4 episodes, because Kim and Colleen are the only pair that has been in every single elimination zone. And of course it is because they are the easiest name to say. If you're one of the first names to be said, people are just going to keep saying your name because it got said before. And also, let's be for real, at the end of the day, the ultimate plan is to take Kim and Colleen as far as they are useful. And they are only as useful as they can be to take up space in the zone. Because every elimination that comes by, every interrogation session that comes by, people are saying like less and less to Kim and Colleen. Like, it seems like they're more and more being like, "Hey man, like, you know, people have said your name before, not trying to rock the boat. Will y'all go in here, and if y'all pull the dagger, will y'all save this person?" Which puts Kim and Colleen in an even worse position, right? Because now they don't even have because for a mere moment on the show, if you are a person that is in the worst possible situation with the potential to go into the elimination zone, you have so much power in terms of like deal making and being able to kind of solidify an alliance with somebody in the moment that you pull the safe dagger. But Kim and Colleen aren't even getting that benefit, because they're basically getting told by the people who are in charge, like, "Hey, you know," and they're being told by the people in charge, "Hey man, like, if you pull the safe dagger, tell this person," or kind of deal. And they're saying, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll do that to help you out," on the assumption that they're not going to say their name again, but that's just not going to happen. Which we'll get into that concept a little bit later on. Speaking of Annalise and Tommy, everybody sees them as a traitor, including the people who previously thought they could potentially be in alliance with them. So now they're in a situation where Annalise and Tommy legitimately bought a week of time in the house. They have bought the time from when they escaped elimination by saving Kim and Colleen instead of saving Olivia and Horacio, who, by the way, like, it's very clear that the blowback was gonna be on Olivia and Horacio now more so than ever, because there's an alliance brewing that's kicking up, and it might be pretty powerful when we get to it. But But yeah, Annalise and Tommy, like, this episode reinforced the idea that their decision to save Kim and Colleen, who are hands down, if they're not the weakest, then Kim and Colleen are. They have no social connection. They don't have anywhere near as much social connection as they believe, because if they really had a social connection, they wouldn't be in elimination every single week, right? People are telling them like, yeah, this and that, whatever, but they're still saying their name at the end of the day. Like, social connection means that you're not in an elimination, which is what some of the other vets have the benefit of. And even and you think about why everybody who's in elimination is in elimination. For instance, last week it was four couples. They were all rookie pairs across the board, right? There was not a single vet that was in elimination. That was by intent. But the difference between Olivia, Horatio, Jasmine, or Johnny and Raven, and Tommy and Annalise, and Kim and Colleen is like an ocean, right? They're there because there are two people who are there because they're not a threat, and there are two people there because they're a massive threat. But I guess it doesn't matter in the end because they're all still there, right? The most encouraging thing that I saw after everybody gets back to the house and Veronica and Darrell do whatever they're doing, it comes off like the thing that Johnny and Raven and Olivia and Horacio started is going to continue on. So I don't know if the leadership is going to be the best choices, but it's very clear that this season, especially based off Chauncey has mentioned it multiple times, that Amber is no longer like even trying to befriend the vets, or seemingly trying to befriend the vets. She's focused on creating a new alliance with the new ladies who are in the house, who are very talented. And you could make an argument based off of the vets that are left in the game in terms of like Nani, Casey, Tori, now Veronica, Nuri, who's by default in a vet alliance because of her partner. But like, you look at them, and even though Nuri is actually one of the people that Amber and Michelle are talking to, like the vet women, I mean, they're pretty, like, for everything that we've seen, they're pretty much on par. Like, other than Annalise, who, quite frankly, now that this episode is over, you could argue that Annalise was the stronger portion of their partnership on the Annalise and Tommy. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. The Outsiders Alliance seems like it's still alive. Like, the Outsiders, in terms of like, these people are like in this weird gray area, and then the vets are up there kind of like in the high and mighty tower, because we'll talk about this later. One of the alliances has now got back-to-back victories. So it's going to be massive in terms of like how many people are going to be gathered on each side, because it comes down to like who wins the daily challenges, and the more numbers you have to win the daily challenge, the more numbers or the more people you have to not say your name, right? Like, the Outsiders Alliance wins the daily challenge. They're putting all the vets in for interrogation, because their alliance is big enough where, like, hey, if we have half the house, we have a 50-50 chance of winning. We have a 50-50 chance of winning the elimination and not getting thrown in there. But you have to work towards that kind of deal. So we move on to a couple of things. We're 4 episodes in, and I honestly... This is, things are starting to get a little steamy for everybody, because guess what? The challenge is filled with a lot of attractive people. I think we can all agree on that. They're attractive, and they're all their own special ways, most of them in the face area. Like, very attractive in that area. But the Love Shack action, by the way, excellent use of Love Shack. Pretty sure that hasn't been used on TV in like 20 years. We'll talk about a big moment that happens later on towards the club area. We have our first Fall Out Boy song of the entire season, which is massive, because I think this is the furthest I've ever gone into a challenge season without a Fall Out Boy song. So the Love Shack action is going down. They're going through, the producers go through and they take footage of like all the couples trying to like hang out and get time alone and stuff like that. They start off with Laurel and Horatio, who is somebody that or two people who we've seen kind of hinted at multiple episodes through, right? Like, Laurel is basically safe, even though she claims that she doesn't have an alliance whatsoever. The only time she's had her name said was in episode 1, and that was really Johnny's attempt to try and mix things up. Everything else is like Laurel and Horatio. Everything else is like Laurel and Horatio doing their own thing, kind of deal like that. They're hitting each other up. Fessy, we saw last episode, seems to think that when people can't have access to Fessy, they go to Horatio because he's a nice guy, and Fessy is Fessy. Faisal. Fessel, there we go. Laurel macking up on Horatio. Don't really see Horatio kind of like macking back, but he's letting it happen in terms of like, oh man, this pretty lady is like hugging me kind of deal. And if you haven't seen Horatio's Instagram, you should go check that out. Dude's fucking shredded. So obviously he's going to be very attractive to athletic people. Tori and Jordan, apparently they are now sleeping in the same bed together after breaking off their engagement a year and a half ago. So that was something. It's hard to assume. Tori says it's for comfort, which, I guess is a thing. I've never been in that situation. You know what I mean? Like me as a person. Fessy and Colleen have been kind of macking it up, kind of cupcaking for all 4 episodes. That, like, Fessy went for Colleen like almost immediately. He says she's the most beautiful woman that he's ever seen, possibly. I'm sure he's used that line 1,000,000,001 times. And to Fessy's credit, as time goes on, he, unlike me, random guy on the internet, is seeing more and more beautiful women every single year that he's alive. He's an attractive guy who's on TV and seems to be able to mac on the ladies. So I would imagine that he is continuing to see women who are the most beautiful women he has ever seen in his entire life. But it also is definitely the most player line of all time, right? Colleen, like I said before, don't know if I'm buying that she's like really into Fessy, but only time will tell. Colleen also spends a lot of time in Kim's room, which is where Fessy sleeps, in his bed. There's a lot of clips of them hanging out and stuff like that. Also, like, really awkward for Kim. Apparently, like, Nelson and Olivia and Fessy and Colleen sleep next to each other, and Kim sleeps on the other side of the room in the singular bed. Also, kind of shocking that nobody's going for like the 6'3" blonde guy who I guess maybe is married because he won a romance reality TV show, or maybe he's in a relationship. Who knows? Anyway, we're moving on from the drama. Let's talk about some other stuff. Let's move on. Let's talk about some cool stuff. Let's talk about the daily. The daily challenge for this episode is called "Hang On For Me." You're hanging from a pole that is hanging over the edge of a skyscraper. There is no net this time because they have like all the harnesses in the fucking world. I don't know about like the swing back effect in terms of like how much control when people let go of their partners. Anyway, we'll explain the challenge. Your partner is hanging from a pole over the edge of a skyscraper. They are being timed, and however long they can hang on the pole, or the team that can hang on to the pole over the edge the longest will win, on the condition that your partner can jump into you with enough force to swing you backwards to be able to grab a flag that is directly behind your partner. Your hang does not count unless you pull the flag. So obviously there's going to be a good chunk of people who get DQ'd in this one. This challenge takes a lot of coordination in general. But yeah, that's what the daily challenge is. We see a lot of stuff going on here. The pole hang turns into you using your partner like a swing, like a momentum swing to reach the flag. Whether that is the partner that was hanging onto the pole or the partner that is jumping towards you is up for people to decide. We saw a lot of people focus on the partner that is hanging from the pole try and flip. We saw a good chunk of people who were releasing early to catch their partner so that they can lift them up high enough to try and grab it. Like I said before, failure to reach the flag takes you out of contention to win at all. 99% of the pairs had the guys hang from the pole and the ladies run up and tackle them to try and force them towards the flag. And it took a short period of time for people to realize the weight difference is a big factor between the two partners, because if your partner doesn't have enough strength to be able to push you backwards, you're not going to go backwards. There's no swing whatsoever from the harnesses that are being utilized. So, and I'll point this out, the only 2 pairs who completed this challenge utilized the lady on the pole and the guy running and tackling that person, which is of course the momentum combination. There are 2 other pairs I want to talk about here. Tori and Devin also used the winning formula, the one that got the 2 people into contention for winning. The momentum of their swing happened. They just didn't grab it fast enough. Also, I think Devin jumped too low to make Tori swing. Kim and Colleen used their big brains on this one. I'll say they used their noodles on this one. They had Kim swing. Remember Kim and Colleen's combination. Kim is the guy. He's the 6'3" dude that won like Prince Charming season 3 in Germany. He is hanging from the pole and shows some pretty good core strength. I'm not going to lie. He lifted his legs almost parallel with the bar. and he's swinging back and forth to try and gain momentum so that when Colleen catches him, Colleen's momentum isn't the only thing that's taking Kim backwards towards the flag. Colleen is catching Kim's momentum of his leg swinging, and then she gets lifted high enough to be able to get to the bar. What they don't anticipate is what they do improperly, I would say. There's two things that could have happened here. Kim is the person that tells Colleen when to start running, as opposed to Colleen, who is the person running, determining when she starts running based off of Kim's legs swinging back and forth, which is important. I would also like to point out Kim's swing was slightly inconsistent, so even if a person had good timing, there's no telling whether or not Kim would have been able to Kim's swing was consistent enough for them to be able to catch the perfect time and to swing back. It was a good idea until Colleen completely missed catching Kim at all. But yeah, no. Also, Tommy and Elise competed in this one. They went into this one with the mentality of knowing that they had to win it to be able to survive for another week, because they needed the power to not be sent into elimination, because they knew they were going to get sent into elimination. And like a pair that is truly afraid to be sent into elimination, when Annalise, who probably had some of the best contact out of all the partner pairs that were going, Annalise had killer contact on Tommy, mainly because they probably weigh the same amount. Annalise gets a really good swing, a swing that might have been the best swing from their partner the entire day, and Tommy just throws his hands up like he's on the Titanic. And Annalise can't reach the flag because she didn't get swung high enough, but guess whose knees were above where the flag were at? Tommy. So if Tommy had turned around and reached, he probably would have gotten it. I would also like to point out, this is maybe one of those moments where having short arms is a bad thing. And I keep bringing it up every single week. Tommy can't do anything about the fact that he has ridiculously short arms. But, you would have liked to see him try a little bit, because you feel like, based off of the video that we saw, felt like he could have reached back and done something. But also, as soon as I saw it happen, I tweeted out, is he throwing this for some reason? I legit thought he was throwing the challenge, which is something you haven't seen too often as of late, because you don't want other people to have power. Let's just be factual. You don't trust the other people in the house, even the people who are in your alliance. You don't trust them, because at some point everybody's got to flip up on everybody. But yeah, it was one of those moments where I legit thought Tommy was throwing the challenge, and it may have been. Anyway, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the challenge. Oh, not there. Oh, not that one. There we go. The challenge. The challenge in this one, the actual athletic feat that was being done, which made it impressive. So, hang strength, which is a real form of strength. If you've ever if you've ever seen these videos online, try and hang from a pole for 2 minutes, and most adults cannot do it for 45 seconds. It's extremely difficult. It is a combination of muscle endurance and, believe it or not, utilization of your core that hang strength, and that hang strength influenced the amount of time that you were able to accrue, which of course influences if you were able to win or not. Timing is massive. Timing was massive in this one. There was a lot of couples that had situations where the person on the pole dropped too soon, so as they were dropping, they had their partner ram into them, and it was killing the momentum, because their force, if your heavier partner is on the pole and they drop down, the force of them going down is greater than the force that is being exerted on them towards the flag backwards, and so it neutralized any chance that the person had to be able to reach back and get the flag. But also explosion, you had a moment where you wanted the person with the most explosive ability to be able to be the person running and hitting somebody into the flag, because if you wanted both of you to have a chance, you not only wanted that your partner who can create the most impact to swing you backwards because they can reach the flag, but you also wanted them to put you in a position where the person who was hanging from the pole can reach back and grab the flag as well, and that only happens if you got the ability to explode off of it. Also, spatial awareness. There's a lot of people, and this was done over the edge of a skyscraper for a particular reason. There's a couple of guys on the show who were afraid of heights that vocally said they were afraid of heights. There's no way that you're telling me that there's a person who is 100% calm when they're standing on the concrete floor, standing on a concrete floor than when they're floating over the edge of a skyscraper, whether they're hooked into a harness or not. Awareness to be able to fight that urge to stay as tight as possible to your partner, the person that you perceive to be the only person to hold you up, right? And not reach for the flag. Like, it's hard to break your human instinct to stay as safe as possible in a lot of these situations. So there's that. That's a big factor that goes into this as well. So yeah, the challenge was tough, man. The challenge was tough, mainly because you only get one shot at it. Most of the time, like, you find yourself being able to get multiple opportunities to recover in a good chunk of these challenges. But this one is the epitome of why you have to be careful about who you betray in certain situations, right? This is the epitome of why they go for the rookies first. The rookies who don't have any situation where they are being, like, if you personally attack a rookie, they're more than likely not going to have 6 people coming after you after this is all said and done, kind of deal. That this is one of those moments, because this is a freak incident and anybody can win it. For instance, even a person who hasn't won 54 consecutive challenges. That was super dramatic and I fucked it up. Anyway, the winner was Nelson and Nuri. Nelson had a 54 consecutive daily challenge losing streak broken. It was something that they've been hinting at since episode 1 of this season. Almost like, I also have to wonder how many times, like in previous seasons where they've been preparing for Nelson to try and break this streak, how many times have they asked him about it and they just haven't used that footage? Because I feel like, you know, you're not in a situation where, like, you come onto the show, you're like, well, he's at 50 right now, and, you know, this is when we should start asking him, right? Because the streak got absurd when he was at like 30, when he was at like 25, right? And you have to wonder how many times they've asked him about it for the off chance that he wins the daily challenge on that episode. But yeah, Nelson and Nuri win the challenge because of Nuri's big brain play. She has Nelson jump into her. Nuri also showing some great athletic ability. She was able to hang on to that a little bit longer than Anissa was. Anissa and Jordan got to, by the way, shout out to Anissa's ass, by the way. Not because of its existence. Well, actually because of its existence, not because of its plumpness. But Anissa's butt is what allows Jordan to be able to reach the flag, because only 2 people completed this challenge. It was Nelson and Nuri, and then it was Anissa and Jordan, which would have been huge because those are 2 players with some of the longest losing streaks in challenge history, or in the challenge currently right now. Jordan doesn't have a right hand. Is his right hand, right? Or is his left hand? Jordan doesn't have a left hand. He was born without it, or he was born with like a partial left hand. So for him, like, Anissa got a lot to grab onto, and it helped a lot in that situation for Jordan to be able to, have faith that the cheeks were going to save him. Thick thighs save lives, and so do cheeks. Anyway, Jordan pulls it. They get in contention to win it, and up until that very moment, by the way, this is one of those challenges where the order you went in mattered a lot, because a lot of people, you don't realize up until like maybe the third, because they were only letting people go 3 at a time. There were 13 pairs in the house, or 12 pairs in the house, so there's like multiple heats, right? Like there's like heat 4, 5 and stuff like that, and you don't realize until maybe like heat 4 the value of getting the flag. Right? Like you sit there and you think about, because I think the tiebreaker, obviously, if everybody had fallen off, if everybody had failed, it would have been like who hangs on the pole the longest. So you think about that while you're trying to figure out like whether or not you're going to be able to even get the flag. You're thinking like, if you're up on the pole, like, do I just hang out here as long as I possibly can, even on the off chance that I mess up the release and we can't get to the flag or something like that. Overall, I think Anissa and Jordan and Nelson and Nuri were towards the back of the heats that went. But I will point out Kim and Colleen and Tommy and Elise were like the last ones to go. So there's that. But yeah, no, it was huge. It was huge for Nelson to get this win, mainly because he is now setting up his and Fessie's alliance for back-to-back dubs. Him, Fessie, and Casey have now won back-to-back daily challenges, and it's not the same person, which is the important aspect of it, where you don't paint a target on your back because you won 2 challenges back to back, and now everybody's kind of like, oh man, this person could get on a roll, and if they get the power and get to do what they want for two back-to-back, or for two challenges back-to-back, they get to send home 4 people. And those 4 people could be from your alliance, depending upon the situation. But yeah, Nelson and Nuri's known alliance so far is Fessy, Mariah, Casey, Kenny, and then the loose connection is to Johnny and Nani, right? Like, Nani is Casey's girlfriend, so, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, they're not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize both of them being in the show, which is a pseudo alliance. Even if Johnny doesn't get along with everybody else in the alliance, because at first it didn't sound like it. To a certain degree, it sounded like Johnny, when he entered the show, was trying to set up his own deal, and then I think he realized that he and Nani are a little bit, like, on the current situation that's going down, they are struggling to be able to compete. Like, they flamed out pretty hard in the barrel race one last episode. Don't know where they finished in terms of like time on the poll or anything, but I know that they did DQ. So since that second episode win, they have not done so hot. So they got to start, you know, prioritizing the social game a little bit more. Moving on. Wow, what the hell? That is not right. Yeah, it is. They win, and Nelson goes into council with Nuri. They sit up there, they look at the names that are on the list, and they kind of shake it down and use the basic logic that everybody else has been using, man. Like, it's pretty simple. Nelson gets the dub. Nelson is going to do the thing that prevents the vets from coming after him, because he's made mistakes in years past where he's tried to go for the big dogs too soon, and it seems like he's learned a little bit. He also comes up and cooks up a little scheme to keep his girl Olivia in the show. He also doesn't care about Horatio all that much, which is understandable, but nonetheless, he cooks up a scheme. He talks to Olivia. This happens. Olivia and Horatio talk to Nelson and Nuri, and they cook up this scheme to have Olivia and Horatio cut a deal with Kim and Colleen and Darrell and Veronica Darrell and Veronica in interrogation to keep Olivia and Horatio safe when it's all said and done, as a form of favor for the people in position of power for later on to not be the pair that is selected, which is the ultimate leverage, right? The automatic pair that you get to send into elimination, the leverage is very important. That leverage is important. Even if the other pairs don't realize that you've already made up your decision, who's going into elimination, who's going to be the guaranteed couple going into elimination, you can still use it as a little threat, you know what I mean? Turn up the heat a little bit, get some things, you know, get your back scratched a little bit. Tommy and Annalise from the jump were the automatic choice, because it was very clear that they're like untrustworthy. They have nobody who's in the house defending them. Even Kim and Colleen have gotten to the point now in the house where they have people who have their back. Olivia and Horatio do not have Tommy and Annalise's back at all. They have made that very clear based off of what happened last week. Kim and Colleen, maybe Tommy and Annalise's closest alliance, and they standing next to him in the elimination zone, right? And then Kim and Colleen also got other people who might look out for him, because there's not been a single person that's gone into the zone and they've been like, I know before we even have conversations with these couples that Kim and Colleen are going in. They're essentially like placeholders in case something goes horribly wrong and they don't want to send down somebody who's in their real alliance to get messed over. That happens. It's pretty simple. They also put in Darrell and Veronica, which is interesting because it's the first vet pair that we've seen, veteran pairs that we've seen since episode 1, and they just so happen to be the new kids on the block, which feeds into the idea that they're getting treated like they are not actually veterans. There's an excuse. They did a really good job of setting up in the diary interviews, being like, well, you know, Darrell and Veronica just got here and everybody's already got their alliances kind of lined up. So, like, they're the easiest name to say. Nobody knows how much of a threat they're going to be in the game kind of deal. It was a cop-out excuse, and they did a really good job of, like, you know, doing the PR. Like, there's one thing that challenge veterans are good at doing. It is laying the groundwork for the audience at home to understand why they selected certain people, and influencing other people in the show to think the same way that everybody else is in terms of like certain pairs. So there's that. But yeah, so we got Kim and Colleen, Tommy and Annalise, the go-to names. Olivia and Horatio, go-to names. They are not the targets this week for the first time in a long time, but they are still in elimination. Remember, Olivia and Horacio are the number one targets to save, but the only reason they're going into elimination is for is for Nelson to be able to look like he's not weak to the other vets, which is gonna be important later on, because this could be the thing that breaks the camel's back, like later on, where if Nelson is in a position of power or position of influence of somebody who does have power, like Fessy or Casey or something like that, the other vets who are on the outs, like the Outsiders Alliance of all the other people who are not in the Vet Alliance, right? And then there's the two Vet Alliances that we think are forming that doesn't include like Bananas, that includes like Casey, Fessy, Mariah, Nuri, and Nelson. And then and do we even think by proxy Johnny and Nani, the other vets have to turn on each other, and there could be little things like this that go a long way in terms of like getting you to stick around for another week, because you never know. You stick around for another week, somebody else becomes public target number one, and you get to stick around for another week, and you keep it rolling like that. The time is coming that the vets are going to have to face off with each other, but the fact of the matter is, the Outsiders may have like a sneaky advantage. They may have a sneaky edge right now because it feels like their numbers are, well, one, it feels like their numbers are greater. And then two, like they may not be winning daily challenges, but a good chunk of them are like not ending up in the elimination zone. And I can't wait to see what happens the first time one of the daily challenges is won by the Outsiders. Like if Jay and Michelle win a challenge, who are they going to put in? Because it doesn't feel like it's going to be the rookies, because they don't have any connection. If Amber wins one, because we've seen Amber do so well on the challenge in years past, if Amber wins one, every single vet has to be feeling like they're in trouble. Because I think Amber's past the point of utilizing her power to try and turn that later on into an alliance. She has not been spoken about in terms of elimination so far, so that could go a long way in terms of her trying not to shake anything up or whatever. But when it comes down to it, it might be time to shake it up when the newbies get in there, when the newbies get it going. You know what I mean? So we'll see. The club, let's talk about it. The club, the fun, the party stays fed the fastest. Whoa, whoa. Sorry. They played, yeah. That was the song. That was the Fall Out Boy song they played for the club. It was pretty funny. Also, tons of slow-mo, really good camera work. I feel like this is the thing too. I talked about how the club is becoming like a Disney montage, and they don't even really show the alcohol as much as they used to anymore. But it is very clearly, when they go to the club, this is the time for the creative camera guys and the production crew to really work their magic, right? Like a lot of the time they're just setting up cameras and they're picking out like diary entry stuff, and they're picking stuff they want to slot in here to like kind of mold the narrative for the show and keep the narrative flowing and all that kind of jazz like that. What is actually really, really good camera work, production work, stuff that I think draws people in, the club scenes, man. Like this is the weird part. They make the room feel full, even though there's nobody but the cast in there. So there's 12 couples of, so that's 24 people, and the bar seems like it's relatively large. There's an outdoor section of it. It's not like a club environment or even a regular bar environment where you walk in and there's people like left and right kind of doing all this kind of stuff like that. People are with their partners, people are like drinking and all that kind of stuff like that, but it doesn't feel like a bar, but they still have to make it feel like it's full. One thing I will point out, the slow-mo was absolutely immaculate on a lot of situations. Nuri had like an amazing dress on. The other thing, Devin, during one of, and I was watching it with my girlfriend, my second watch through, because I watch every episode 3 times now for this show. The second watch through I did with my girlfriend, I caught this. And they're doing the club scene, everybody's dancing, and they have one scene where they zoom in on the bar, like from the left portion of the bar. So Devin's sitting at the bar and he's just staring into oblivion. He's staring into oblivion, and it very much looks like he's asking himself, what am I doing with my life? That I'm in this club right now where I don't want to be, when I could just be back at the house asleep. or drinking at the house by myself. And it's very funny because I feel like he actually did it on purpose. I don't think he was actually like just completely zoned out, but it's for a fraction of a second, and then they just move on like nothing's happening. Everybody else is going back to having a good time, and it's hilarious to me. I loved it so much because it feels like Devin is trying to spice it. Devin sounds like he's having a fun time. Like when they were talking about the partner pairs, he was like talking over TJ about like, you're not introducing a new pair. You're not bringing in anybody else. You're not bringing in anybody else. And he's like, when they announced that there's no new pairs coming, he's like, run before he changes his mind kind of deal. Like they're joking around and all that kind of stuff like that. They also have the moment where the first 2 episodes, they come out and his name is on the board. And he's like, God damn it, gosh darn it, like fake getting pissed off, and it's very clearly like he's joking around and getting fake pissed off, and then he does it for like 2 more episodes, and he kind of dies down a little bit because then people start really reacting to being up on the board for the 4 for interrogation. It's pretty funny. It seems like he's having a ton of fun because he doesn't feel like his position in the game is threatened at all. He thinks that him being in elimination for day 1 was kind of like a fluke, I'm sure, and he's just able to have fun. Like he's not freaking out like all the rookies are, and like all the middling, like non-top 5, non-bottom 5 players are, where they're just kind of like figuring out where they sit in the game and trying to work their way up. Devin's like already in the roost of the castle kind of deal and untouchable. Nobody's even thought about putting Devin and Tori into elimination in the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure it's because of how much they dominated Sam and Kayla, right? But even so, like it's getting to the point where like Olivia and Horacio, like how many more times can you put them in there? Do they become the tool to send other couples home, right? Because it's like, oh, there's no downside to sending Olivia and Horacio in. Either they come back or they don't, right? If they don't, cool, we win. If they do, oh no, we'll just put them back in another week because it's easier that way. That's why they have to constantly build up this alliance outside of the vets, man, and figure it out. Anyway, also, my girlfriend noticed that Annalise has the wildest hairline known to man. She has hair that's like literally 2 inches away from her eyebrows. And, as a person with a big-ass forehead, I'm jealous. Shout out Annalise. Keep doing your thing, young lady. Keep doing your thing. Keep thriving. Keep surviving. Keep making people feel bad because your hair is just that on point. Other stuff. The elimination. Let's get to it. They go to the elimination zone. And by the way, for the longest, I thought the elimination area didn't have a name. Like they've had it called the Crucible. They've had it called like the Gauntlet, all that kind of stuff like that. But I guess they're just calling it the zone, the elimination zone. So that was a thing because I thought that would hint at what it would eventually be called, like when they're like, well, we haven't really been calling it anything this entire time. So I think we should probably reveal what the name of the real elimination zone is, and then they introduce the backstabbing. I still think that there's going to be a backstabbing aspect of the daggers. Or I feel like it would be a massive miss on production's part. The elimination. So the dagger gets pulled by Olivia and Horacio, and they choose to save Darrell and Veronica on the off chance, which is very smart because you talk about people who could potentially have power later on, people who have some sort of standing whatsoever in the house. On the off chance that some point Darrell and Veronica may pay back such a favor to not send them into elimination 1 week into the show. That leads to Colleen and Kim being fake mad in the diary entries before the elimination because they're like, they don't even know Darrell and Veronica. Why would they save them? And then, Olivia and Horacio like are very much like, we barely even talked to them. So there's that. That's always going to be a huge aspect, which is always funny to me because it's very easy to like just strike up general conversation with people in general, so they can't use the excuse of we never talk to them. They can use the excuse of like I never talk game with them, because you can't talk game with everybody because then everybody thinks that everybody thinks you're a floater, right? And the floater is like the worst thing ever because anybody can use that as an excuse when they get into a position of power to throw you into elimination, right? Like you want to be on the side, even if you're on the losing side, you're better off than being a floater because a floater can get picked off at any given point throughout the course of the show, right? That being said, I thought it was wild as fuck. I thought it was funny that Colleen, well, it was more Colleen, it wasn't even really Kim, where they were like, yeah, they don't even know them. And I was like, bruh, they've known them 1 week longer, or what? This is episode 4. So Darrell and Veronica showed up. It's 4 weeks into the show, so they've known you 3 weeks longer than they've known them. That's not like a lot of time, but it is a lot of time at the same time. A lot of things can happen in 3 weeks, but obviously not deep bonding to prevent you from going into elimination for the first time, even though you should have been in probably the last 2 times, because they're, like, once again, one of the weakest couples, hands down, on the show. And there have been so many more talented teams that have gone into elimination when Kim and Colleen have been able to, like, skirt by. They've been in every elimination pool and have been able to dance by, except on this one. And then, of course, they're a part of truly a historic moment in the challenge, in my opinion. So this is hands down, in my opinion, the saddest challenge I've ever seen. There was a challenge a couple years ago where they had Jordan do. Man, it was a challenge where Jordan needed to. I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head, man. It was a challenge where, like, Jordan needed 2 hands, essentially. And I think it was pole wrestling. Versus, man, I can't even think of who it was off the top of my head. It was pole wrestling, and CT put him in there. Or somebody put him in there. And I remember in the diary entry, CT was like, damn, dude, this is really messed up. Because, like, we spent this whole week trying to orchestrate against Jordan and trying to figure out a way to flip the positioning to make sure that he couldn't, like, weasel his way out or, like, use one of the backdoor exits to get out of this challenge. And it worked, but we didn't want it to work like this. They felt bad. That was legitimately what they were doing. They were like, we wanted him to lose, and we wanted it to be bad, but we didn't want it to be like him losing because he doesn't have a hand. We wanted it to be him losing because somebody was better than him. This is similar in that vein, but I don't feel bad for Tommy. Anyway, the elimination was called Flipping Wasted. So your partner is laying down on a metal board that is in a pool of mud. That is slightly above a pool of mud. There's a rope in front of Kim, in front of Tommy. They are like 25 yards away from where Annalise, who is strapped to the board, and Colleen is strapped to the board, is at. They're on a pulley system. You pull the rope, it lifts them up to the point where they can. They're kind of like where they can lift up to a point where they can fiddle with this puzzle, where it's a turn style puzzle. So like it's like not rolling pins necessarily, but like if rolling pins could be like triangles and you could lock them into place. So that's what the puzzle is. And they're trying to make a bunch of daggers, which they didn't show all that much what the image that they were trying to make was. Usually they show you what the completed puzzle looks like, and then they show you what is in front of the challengers. But this challenge was so bad that they just showed you footage of Tommy not able to get it up. And when I say it, I mean Annalise's board. He was pulling with all of his might. Tommy looked like he had never done any type of, and Tommy's a dancer, right? Like he's got body control and stuff like that, but he just doesn't have raw strength. We found that out in the barrel racing one. We found that out in a couple of other situations, right? Like he talked about, oh, this one is like not built for our bodies and all this kind of deal like that, because Annalise is a soccer player and he's a dancer, right? So like just raw strength is not their deal. This one is about raw strength, and it's about muscle endurance. Tommy cannot pull the board with Annalise up, and it's not like Annalise weighs a lot. It's not like Annalise is one of the... Annalise has got a soccer background, which means she probably got a ton of muscle on her body, but she ain't weighing that much. You know what I mean? Tommy's just not strong enough to be able to pull it up. And then on top of that, Tommy also has like poor form the entire time that he's trying to do it. He's hunched over on his back. He's like hunched over. He looks like the greater than value sign, as opposed to what he should be doing, whereas like his knees should be bent, his butt should be down, and if he's trying to pull up Annalise, he should be trying to be in that position and walk backwards so that he's using his entire body, as opposed to what he was trying to do, which I think was use his core and his arms to pull the rope towards his chest and then lean backwards. He He obviously there just sometimes when you don't weigh as much, you don't weigh enough. You know what I mean? And it was really sad because it was very clear that Tommy had like zero shot of actually getting Annalise anywhere close to that puzzle, and Kim like just locked in his legs and showed great strength, and Colleen got like 4 or 5 attempts at the puzzle before she finally got it right, and there was like zero chance. Tommy breaks down crying in the elimination zone, as you should. It was pretty embarrassing, and it's not like in a daily challenge where like, oh man, you guys came in last place and everybody sees you come in last place. It's one of those things where like you came in last place and everybody was like looking at you, all the cameras, all the lights, all the special effects, all that kind of stuff like that. Tommy's crying his eyes out. Annalise by the way, look, not to be that guy, you can go back and listen to it and watch it yourself. In this elimination, Annalise's voice, and it's not intentional, it's just the way that her voice sounds. It's like very sexual, where she's like, come on, Tommy, and it's like super unsettling for me, because I know she's not doing it on purpose, but it definitely sounds sexual. Anyway, that was the big thing. It was the saddest elimination I've ever seen, because it was like, oh, this is decided. And you sat there and you've seen production like show you how quick eliminations are sometimes without having you like go through the pain and agony. But they were like, you know what? MTV has got another break to go on, you know, and we can sell it like Tommy could possibly get this up in the back half of this challenge, and they can come back on it. So we're just going to show this little guy struggling. You know what I mean? And he kept doing this thing where he didn't want to touch the sand. I don't know if you automatically DQ if you touch the sand, because they were on a platform that was all metal. Kim was telling him to like wipe his shoes off, and that's why he was slipping. And it was really just because Tommy couldn't generate the power to go backwards. The sand really does fuck with people, though. Like we saw that last week with Raven and Johnny, allegedly, even though it very much looks like other things were at play, because Olivia and Horacio were also in the sand, but they did not seem like they were affected by it. But yeah, saddest elimination I've ever seen, other than that Jordan one where he needed 2 hands to win and he literally didn't have 2 hands. So that was messed up, but also Jordan was being a dick, so it didn't make me feel as bad. Let's get to the rankings, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to, let me make sure I type it in right. Let's go to the old bottoms. So last week's bottoms were Laurel, Jack, Jay and Michelle, Annalise and Tommy, Kim and Colleen. This week's are Laurel and Jack, Jay and Michelle, Darrell and Veronica, because things are getting a little, and also you can see the bottom 5 now is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. We getting to that point. We getting pretty close to that point. Laurel and Jack, just because they haven't made any moves in terms of like actually winning a challenge and claiming any power, but they've also had moments where like they almost went into elimination, right? They also have moments where I mean, like I said, they're not doing anything. We haven't seen any social game from Jack that's come to fruition, maybe other than the fact that they're not in elimination, you know? Jay and Michelle are a part of the Outsiders Alliance, so they're automatically one of the top targets for the vets. I will also like to point out, Jay and Michelle are not the number 1 targets for the Outsiders Alliance. And it's Horacio and Olivia, which is why they're here. Darrell and Veronica, clearly the house doesn't value the previous things that they've done in the past on the show, so it makes you wonder, are they primed to flip? You know, after Olivia and Horacio helped them out, are they primed to flip after they see how many numbers Jay and Michelle and Amber and Chauncey and all the Nelson and Nuri and everybody have collected together to possibly go up against some of the vets that are at the top that keep winning the games and stuff like that? So we'll see. Only time will tell. I put them that low because they got put into elimination right off the jump because their names were easy to say. But, you know, if you got enough, like Johnny and like every other heavy hitter couple that's come into the game has had their names easy to say for the same exact reason, except for Johnny and Nani, who won. Jordan and Anise have not been in elimination, all that kind of jazz like that. Let's go back to the old tops. Old tops: Bananas and Nani, Devin and Tori, Casey and Kenny, Fessel and Mariah, Nelson and Nuri. The new tops I have: Fessel and Mariah, because Fessy seems to be the head honcho for the new vet alliance that features Nelson and Nuri at number 2, Casey and Kenny at number 3, and then Devin and Tori, although they've not had their names called in a couple of weeks, don't know where they exactly align themselves. Tori, after her adventure with Fessy, doesn't necessarily seem to be all that excited to kind of align herself with them. Devin, don't know where Devin's doing in terms of like social stuff. Bananas and Nani. The reason they're number 4 on this one is purely off of the fact that I think a lot of people are very scared of Devin and Tori, because Tori has the athleticism and ability, and also has the fact that she's a great teammate. Devin has the brains, and Tori makes up for everything else. So they're a really good combination. Bananas and Nani, super vets in this situation. Haven't seen them become like legitimate threats when it comes to winning daily challenges, except the one that they won in episode 2. And that one, that's good. Getting one is super valuable, especially 4 games into it. They've had 3 opportunities to win a daily challenge, and they won it 1 time. It's massive. Bananas and Nani dropping off a little bit, mainly because how tight is that bond with Casey and Nani in terms of like their alliance overall in this one, especially if Bananas, who seemingly wants to be cool with Jordan and Anissa, is kind of in this situation. We saw that conversation that he had with Jordan about how he doesn't know where Fessy and Nelson kind of line themselves, all that kind of stuff like that. That could be classic Johnny Bananas manipulation, but only time will tell. But yeah, that's what I got for my top 5. Fessel and Mariah, Nelson and Nuri at number 2, Casey and Kenny at number 3, Devin and Tori for number 4, and number 5, Nelson and Nani. Basically flipped 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Casey and Kenny stay in the same spot because they have yet to do anything of note, but they've also not had themselves on pretty much anybody's radar in terms of like, we need to get them out of the game. Despite the fact that Casey is currently the reigning champ, I also believe that there's an aspect of some of these vets that in the back of their mind, they know how dirty this show is. They know that there might come a time where they get swap partners with somebody, and they want to keep Casey in this one because getting Casey is goddamn guaranteed. Because in terms of like the ladies so far, or really the ladies in general, based off the new information we have about the rookie ladies, Casey's at the top of the heap again. So we'll see. Only time will tell. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of here. I got to go watch some NFL football games because tomorrow I'm doing my NFL recap. It is the halfway point of the NFL season for us, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got to start talking about who's real and who's fake. A lot of frauds. I don't know who they are, but as time goes on, we'll figure it out together. We're going to be talking about the halfway point of the NFL season, what we've learned, what we don't know, what we want to know, what we don't want to know in some way, shape, or form, and what trends, good and bad, have popped up for each one of these teams in the NFL. I am Ashton G. Lewis. Hit me up on Twitter at FB_playbook, or follow my personal account, which apparently people like to do that more than they like to follow my sportsy one, at the Ashton J is my Twitter account. Check me out there if you're interested in just checking out the podcast when it goes live. Check out at Broke Boy Pod. That is, it tweets out every single time this show goes live. Make sure you follow on YouTube and on Twitch. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow on Twitch. Appreciate it. And to our newest subscriber, give him one more shout out here, SMWS Music. Shout out to him for joining up and hopping inside the bank. Appreciate that. We are out of here. Shout out to Christina Gukas for her bomb ass song Humble Beliefs that we're listening to right now.